meeting. Could we start off with any declarations of any disclosable pecuniary interest, please? None? Nobody's answering? Nobody answering?
No.
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 Lovely. Apologies for absence. We have had Jane James. Anybody else?
Jane James, no. Due to be present were Mike Brindle and Carla Barretto, but they haven't switched on yet. They accepted, so I imagine they will come on eventually. We keep an eye on it.
Yeah, if you can mark the times when they join the meeting, please.
Yeah.
Right. So moving on to confirm the minutes of the committee meeting held on the 4th of March. This has been through full council and was approved. Any questions?
No.
No.
Why have I got photographs on mine?
I don't know what I've got the agenda, so.
So have I.
I've got the minutes, but the top of it, I've got children playing in school or something. I don't know what it is.
That's your picture.
Really?
Right, pay attention. Right, so approve the minutes.
Thank you.
Right, action points and updates from the last meeting. And I think the first two are Ros's, and then we have a councillor's update. Ros, you want to do your updates?
Just to say that the trim trail has been delayed because Wicksteed have furloughed staff now, although they have got all of our equipment in their yard. They've sent photographs of it ready for us to go. Historic England haven't yet approved the revised designs because we had to move the equipment around and everything for them, so there wasn't. So we can't resubmit our planning permission until Historic England have signed things off. We thank you to all the councillors who responded so quickly to Breckland's consultation on the Harriet Martineau play equipment from the 106 monies. That has all gone through and we've ordered the equipment. That's all been spent and the residents are informed. We do now need to call together the working group of the councillors. I think it was Carla, Dave, and who was the third councillor?
Jenny,
of course it was Jenny, together with the residents. So we might have to do a meeting with them just to plan out what's going to happen. But I was going to get some quotes for the installation of the equipment before we actually go back to the residents group.
right, thanks, Ros. I think Jenny wanted to come in there.
Yeah, the committee for the Harriet Martineau play park have said they've managed to raise, is it £1,000?
Yeah.
And they suggested maybe putting it to another piece of equipment. Yes, did I read that right?
Well, I think they might need to put it towards the fitting of the two pieces of equipment that they've bought.
Yes, yes, that's what I was going to say. Maybe they should use that to help with the installation of what's already been purchased. And hopefully maybe we can start a good fundraising drive once this is over.
But shall we call that? I mean, we could either join the next Croxton Roads Residents Association meeting because they're doing theirs virtually, or we could invite them to one of our have a special working group meeting with the councillors who put themselves forward.
Oh, yeah.
What would you prefer?
I don't mind. I didn't realise they were doing it online.
Yeah.
Mm.
Maybe it'd be best to have a sub meeting because then it's more focused, isn't it?
That's right, yeah.
So I'll get that organised.
Are you all right with that, Dave?
Yeah, happy with that. That's fine.
All right, that's great then.
The St Peters have been working on their consultation, which will be going out this week. So could I ask people to encourage everyone else to get involved? They did ask whether we had any wedding photographs of people getting married in St Peters and stories about the history of St Peters. Does any councillors have wedding photographs in St Peter's that they might willing to share?
Oh my word, no.
I can't remember the church being open, to be honest with you. I went
Yeah.
there once, and but it had been closed, but it was used for an All Christians Together event. But it wasn't a church, you know what I mean? So I don't know anybody that's used that church. When did it close? 10, 15?
Or longer, maybe. 2009 was when we took it on. It was shut before then, wasn't it?
Jenny, you have your hands up.
Yeah, what about asking on the Thetford Past, Brian Mace is his name, the gentleman that does it. He normally gets hold of old pictures. If we put something on there, maybe people have put some pictures up for us.
Will do.
Yeah.
Because they do it for St Cuthbert's, or I got married in there in 77 or whatever. So maybe we could put on there and just ask for comments and that from St Peter's when it was open.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll do that. Have a go at that. I circulated the draft policy for additions to the memorial. I just did anyone have any comments on that?
Yes, please.
Go ahead,
Okay.
Jenny.
Oh, right, I was just going to type thank you. Yeah, this is the one that's been requested for by the British Legion.
Yes.
Are they in a position to contribute to the cost?
No.
Right, okay. And it's not, sorry.
I haven't actually had a response yet from the memorial people. I went to a couple of them. I think they're furloughed and stuff at the moment. But the last time I did it it was about £300 to put a name on.
Oh, right, okay, that's not bad anyway, is it? No,
So we need to advertise that. And if councillors are happy for me to go ahead and do that based on the policy that we drafted up, I'll put the policy on the next agenda. But I think if we advertise this particular one, and then we can get cracking. Would people want to try and get it done before VJ Day because he died in the South Seas?
it would be nice, but is it possible under the circumstances?
We'll see. We'll see. Okay. So I'll bring that back when we get a bit more progress. The EA have confirmed 10,000 match funding for this financial year for our fish pass, and we're waiting for them to do the development stuff for that, which we'll then bring back to council. And then some operational things that have happened, obviously because of the coronavirus. Discussing with the mayor and chair of ALP, we deferred the hanging baskets this year. There was just too much of a risk that with the current situation that we put up the hanging baskets that require watering once a day, and then that goes and we've got dead plants hanging around the town. So we've transferred some of the resources to our terrestrial displays, and they've now done the baskets and things around, not the baskets, the planters around the town. So that's looking better. But there is a significant saving there, which we'll get to later when we talk about the budget. There's an online Angling and Bloom competition this year, and the toilets remain closed. We'll get to that under health and safety. And the bins are not being emptied because we've closed play parks by Serco. So our staff have to go and empty those now and again because people are still breaking in and using the play parks, which will be covered under health and safety. And the Priory has been closed, but we're rearranging it to be open. Oh, Dennis has got hands up.
Yeah, got that.
Yep. Sure, I got there. On that one, going back to the last one with the hanging baskets, people have given contributions towards the hanging baskets. Have they been contacted to say we're not doing them, but we're using the money on the terrestrial pots?
Yeah, there's only a few now that do, and we have contacted most of them, not all of them, but most of them.
Okay, well, thanks very much.
Can I just inquire about the Priory? Because the Priory is not ours, is it?
No.
So, have they given permission? And the thing is, if we open the Priory, people are then going to come back and say, why isn't King's House Gardens open? So, you know, because both of them is not under the town council in theory.
Yeah.
So I think we need to think about, if we open the Priory, what's the difference between the Priory and King's House Gardens? Because that's the way the public would look at it.
Can I come in on that, please? There's a big difference in that by English Heritage to the Priory asked us to open the Priory, and they have provided signage to open the Priory. And Staniforth Trust is still a private garden that happens to be open to the public. So the difference is that English Heritage have requested and are paying for us to open up the Priory. Staniforth Trust, I haven't had anybody from the Staniforth Trust approach me to ask me to open the gardens yet.
Got a hands up from Terry Jeremy, Chair.
Okay. Off you go, Terry.
Sorry, thank you. Just a comment really on the hanging basket situation. It's a real shame that we've not been able to do the hanging baskets this year, because it's one of the very things that people comment on a lot, just how pleased they are to see our hanging basket display. I just wonder if we looked at whether other towns were not going ahead with their hanging baskets this year. I mean, I know that one of the things that are sort of getting back to normal quicker than anything else is anything really to do with the outside, grounds maintenance, that sort of stuff. So whilst I can appreciate the need to be cautious, I would have thought that, you know, the town centre and retailers need all the help they can get at the moment. So it's just a sort of another sort of kick in the teeth for sort of town centre retailers, I think. But I just wonder if we've maybe made a decision too hastily there and not going ahead with it, and whether we looked at the whole thing. Also, just, you know, I'm surprised that it wasn't a committee decision rather than a sort of an officer decision.
Yeah, in the main, Terry, what it was the gentleman that does the hanging baskets. He said due to his low staff, he could not commit to keep them watered. So we'd have spent money, put up the hanging baskets, and no one there to water them. Is that correct, Ros?
Yeah, that was the situation at the time. Like Terry saying, it's changing day by day. So, but if councillors want to go ahead and take the risk of potentially putting the hanging baskets up, then we can go back to them and see whether what their situation is now and whether they'd be prepared to put them up. The only issue is if you do get a second wave and then their capacity is reduced. I'd be interested to see what other councillors feel. Would they like to go ahead and see if we can get the hanging baskets up?
Terry wishes to come back.
Yeah, just when you're sort of talking about the contractor there, isn't this the hanging basket watering lumped in with the new contract?
Yeah.
And we specifically went with a bigger company so that they had greater sort of flexibility and capacity and that sort of thing. So I'm a little bit surprised if they can't commit to one of the most important elements of the contract straight away, which is the hanging basket watering. I get everything that's going on, but you know, hanging baskets is really one of the key parts of that contract.
Hands up from Tina Cannell.
Tina, then Stuart, please.
No, I've already done mine.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, okay. Stuart, why does Stuart have his...
No, I just made a comment and said it would be nice to see them up. So, you know, I'm supporting Terry really if we can revisit the idea. But obviously, I'm not on this committee. But from a outsider's point of view, things are starting to free up a bit, and I do think we will have a tail end of the season in terms of tourism. So it would be nice to have something in place.
Just want to hear from other councillors really, because that's one from the committee really. Can we have some more come in? Thanks, Stuart, for putting your positive spin on, but if there's other ones, please.
Dave Hodgkin.
Hi there. Yeah, I'm in support of getting the baskets up as soon as it's possible for that to happen. So I'm supporting Terry in his question. That's me.
Other councillors, please.
I would be in support if it's practical that we can do it, and it's no good putting the baskets up if they're not going to get watered, but if we can, go for it.
I think when this decision was made, it was different times, and we keep moving in, you know, week by week, we're moving into different times. So,
Hands up
yeah.
from Roy Brame.
Okay, Roy.
No, thank you, Chair. Yeah, I must admit, I mean, it is changing rapidly. We are contracted to them, so therefore, if they are not charging us, we're going to have to take the responsibility of telling them that we would like to have a look at it. I think perhaps we should, as an action point, get their answer to what they feel will be happening. I mean, this hot spell would have been really, really bad if we'd have had them up. We don't know what the weather's going to be. We don't know. You don't know what your commitment's going to be. So perhaps we ought to go back to them and ask if their position has changed and what contractual changes they're prepared to put in place.
There's a hands up from Chris Harvey and a comment from the town clerk.
I didn't see that comment. It all flashed too quick. Sorry.
Okay, so it's Chris Harvey. Tina Cannell said, can we suggest that Roz investigates the practicalities and get back to committee?
Yeah. Chris, you wanted to come in? Chris Harvey.
I would like to see the baskets go up as soon as possible, please, so we can get back to normality.
Yeah. So do you all take on board the suggestion that Tina has made that we allow Roz to go away, talk to the contractor to see what can be done?
Agreed.
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 Agreed. Thank
Right.
you.
Agreed.
Thank you. I think we've got the heads up on that one.
Yeah.
Can I just clarify that? So if it's within budget, what we normally do, go ahead and try and get it done in terms of practicalities and managing it. If there's additional costs, we'll come back to the committee.
Yeah. All agreed on that one?
Agreed.
Agreed, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Health and safety is next, I think, if I'm correct. Yeah, so going on to health and safety. Roz, over to you again.
Mark, did you want to say a little bit about the trees? Because you've been doing a lot of work on those.
Yep, certainly. I've been sort of trying to play catch up with.
Mark, just a moment, Mark, because we have a few Marks. Can I just say, could we say Mark and say who you are? Because otherwise, if public's listening, they're saying who's Mark, you know.
So
yeah,
Mark
sure.
Webster, our
Thank you.
countryside officer.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry about that. So yeah, I've been trying to play catch up a little bit with trees that that may or may not be a sort of a higher risk. There's been one in Castle Park that we've had taped off for a while. Our consultant has now taken the view that that one is in a reasonably safe condition, can be left until the tree surgeons start work, you know, even if that's at September time. So I've removed the tape from that one. I've been sort of taping off areas, as I say, where I think there could be a problem in the shorter term. So there is still, hopefully, last time I looked, some tape around a sort of smaller tree, but one that is near a road junction on Melford Common. So that one is still taped off, as I hope, as I say, last time we looked, and that is one of the top priorities for our tree surgeons, who should be getting back to work the first week in June, we understand now. We've also got another one on Mill Lane, which is a sizable poplar, and it's over the sort of Warner Way area where people do like to park. I've taken that off and coned off the area, put up warning signs. These were removed on Tuesday, and then I put them up Wednesday. So I haven't had a look today again. Whether they'll survive the weekend, I can't be sure, of course, but I will try and keep an eye on it and sort of keep it the immediate surrounding area of it, in case a limb falls, certainly closed off as far as I possibly can. But as I said, the good news is that actually our tree surgeon and his crew should be back at work in early June, and we expect him to get on with the sort of high priority works, obviously, as soon as possible then.
I should really have introduced this by saying that in terms of the coronavirus and the situation we're in now, it is taking an awful lot of time and effort at looking at the way we're working, how we're working, making sure that staff are very safe, and trying to bring things back into service when we're allowed to do so, when the government guidance changes. But as you know, the shutdowns were quick. We didn't get warnings about when we had to shut down. And the opening up is coming quick as well, but we need to do that in a safe, careful, well thought out way. We're going back to our health and safety organisation, talking to making sure that everything that we do as we go back is risk assessed in the proper way, because your number one liability will be your staff in terms of costs to the council. If we get it wrong, if we open things up too quickly, if we do something without risk assessing it properly in the first place, then that's where our difficulties will be. So we're bringing staff back in, we're increasing their hours. Staff have been going around the sites, Mark and Nick and Carl checking things. Chris has been doing the play park checks. But while the play parks are closed, that's a bit different. So we're kind of gradually bringing back down. We had quite a lot of we looked at opening up the toilets because we wanted to open the toilets up for the bus drivers in particular. So we had some conversations with Breckland and the county council, and we were asking for information around risk assessments. We were trying to look at what other councils were doing. We haven't got to a place yet where we've seen, I know that they're reopening in certain places in the town, in other towns, but I haven't seen any risk assessments that have said, actually, this is the level that you need to have. And in fact, what county was saying is that you need to have people on site in order to make sure that the hygiene levels are being maintained at a certain level. Otherwise, your toilets are becoming a source of basically infection. Did I see, is that Terry and Jen with hands up, or is that from previous?
No, it's Terry and then Jenny.
Okay.
Thank you. Thanks for that, Ros. I was just going to ask about the risk assessments for contractors, because obviously we have ultimate control of our own staff and make sure that we are putting the right measures in place. And I see that we've checked contractors' risk assessments, and I just wanted to make sure that all of our contractors have provided them. And if not, what happens basically? But also, how do we ensure that they're actually being adhered to? Because it's all very well having a sort of written risk assessment, but there's always examples of contractors not following their own risk assessments. I want to make sure that they're actually being adhered to, and how we're checking that really is the question.
Well, we're asking as each contractor comes in, we're asking to see their risk assessments. ID Verdi gave us a really, really good suite, which is our biggest contractor. In terms of monitoring whether they do it or not, that kind of the legal responsibilities sit with them, because they're saying that's what they're doing to manage the risks. However, if the public see anything in terms of when they're out and about, if they just report stuff to us, then we will make sure that we act on that.
Chair, I've got Councillor Hollis and Councillor Brain waiting to speak.
Okay, Councillor Hollis.
Thank you. The bus station toilets, I agree, they'd have to put somebody there all the time, because it's not just the bus drivers that use them. I mean, I have reported a couple of gentlemen going in there and having their daily dose, whatever. So they'd have to be watched, because and cleaned properly. I think that's a real risk on the toilets at the moment, opening them.
Councillor Brown.
Rod has actually said basically what I was the question that I had. Surely that the contractors who put the health and safety in have to adhere to it for their own safety, and it's their responsibility. We can't be. We're not statutorily our ship that they are performing what they're telling us. Well, that's the way I understood it.
Yeah, I can see where Terry's coming from, because if you've got a contractor and it's on town council's property, the public don't understand that. I was on Facebook about Castle Park, and they were saying the grass cutters are sitting there having all sitting around one another, no social distancing, and having a fag. Well, you know, it's not the town council workers.
Yeah, but we just need to let us know. We'll follow up with the contractors.
Can we put somewhere on our website, use the report thing if you see social distancing not being done? Might be something that we could put up and take a lead on. Obviously, if it's the public, we report it to the police, and if it's contractors, we report it to the head officers.
Yeah,
good point.
Yeah.
We've had problems with our play parks, because as soon as the government said the parks were open, people decided that the play parks should be open too and started to open them up. So we're actually chaining those now and padlocking them ready for the bank holiday week. And we've also had reports from people gathering on our site, which has triggered us to develop some signage for all our sites about social distancing and gathering. So we will need to have signage across the whole of the town. And while we've put some temporary signs up, we're looking to have some more permanent ones designed and put up. Was there any other health and safety issues that councillors wanted to raise?
Jenny Hollis had her hands up.
Thank you. Just about play parks, I have done a tour around Harriet Macnew and Fairfields. I did tie the gates up a few times on Fairfield because they keep cutting the ties. So I stringed them up, but I've noticed now after my email to you that Carl has been round proper padlocks on them, and they're all intact when I took a wander yesterday, and Harriet Matthews fine as well. Thank you for doing that.
Thank you.
I've had a buy and a HU from Chris Harvey, I don't know what the buy was. There you go. Over to you, Chris.
I hit the wrong button.
Yeah.
I've been going around the allotments and checking on social distancing and normal stuff. Everything's okay. The Bury Road had done really well. The London Road has improved drastically. The health and safety on them is okay. We did have a report from a member of the public about social distancing, but it was a family when I went to check.
We can pick that up under allotments, and we can pick that up when we meet in allotments next time.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah. Well done there, Chris. So any more questions under the health and safety? No? Okay.
Hang on. Yes, I had a message last night about the play park area on Richard Easton.
Oh, that's not ours, is it? Do you mean the play park, or do you mean the bit of green? Oh, is it?
That's ours, yeah, that's ours. I had a message last night and a phone call. There was a gathering on there having a barbecue, actually in the play park. Residents tried to phone the police. They were on the phone for an hour, got no answer. They didn't actually leave the site until gone 10 o'clock last night. So I've got to be honest, I haven't wandered down to that play park. Is that marked off as well?
the main one should be.
Right. Okay. I'll go and check on that one today.
Well, let me know if it's not.
I will do. I will do.
Is this the play park as in swings or the
Yeah,
open
yeah.
space?
It's got children's equipment in it, but it was about 4 adults decided they were going to have a barbecue in there last night.
Yeah, we are doing some signs. Mark's doing some signs saying no barbecuing on our sites because we're quite worried about the fire risk at the moment.
Yeah.
Mark's
I'll go down later and have a look.
Right, thank you for that, Councillor Hollis. Anybody else? So we move on then to 886/19, the budget.
So these are the end of year figures for ALP. So starting off with the income, we exceeded our income again this year by another 40,000. That was partly due to Mark Webster, our countryside officer, getting additional conservation volunteers for equipment and activities. We also registered more of our land, so we had additional rural payment funding coming in, and we had the 106 monies from Harriet Martineau and Castle Park Trim Trail. So they were the additional income. Any questions on the income?
Just a matter of what land have we registered? What extra land have we registered now?
It was Ford Meadow and the area around the bottom area.
Oh, wow. Thank you. Well done.
Next one. Oh, so in terms of expenditure, we overall we came in £1,000 under budget. We overspent on some things and underspent on others. The comments on the right hand side where the variances were. Is there any questions on those?
Well, I was just thinking, you're saying that we've underspent overall by 1,000. That's probably now going to go, if possible. Yes, no?
I think we'll be all right in this year's budget for the hanging baskets. I don't think we'll need any additionals, I hope.
Right, Councillor Brian has his hands up. Is that it, Roy? The car?
Yeah. The budget going into next year. Are we going to have to look at that? Because surely some of those budgets on income and expenditure are going to be totally different with the bits and pieces that we're doing. With all of this happening, are they going to be robust enough to cover what we're doing, or do we leave that until the new mayoral year?
I think it'd be really useful because I've put the ALP objectives priorities on the agenda as well, is if when we go through that is just to review those in terms of what we've set and just discuss because some of our external funding sources have dried up and some of those projects we might change in terms of, but also the increased costs of cleaning, signage, the fact that staff can't go in vehicles together anymore. There's all sorts of issues around the finances, and what we've proposed is, if councillors have a think about that after we've done the priorities objectives agenda item, then we can maybe look at pulling a budget, having a special meeting after this later to look at how the budget will need to change depending on the new world we find ourselves in.
Chair, Councillor Jen Hollins has had her hands up.
Yeah. Councillor Hollis?
Yeah, thank you. I was looking at the property maintenance budget. It's quite a bit lower this year, isn't it? We've spent a lot less, which is good. I'm not knocking that. Have we not had the amount of repairs, etc., that we should have had, or we normally have, or?
Yeah, no, we did spend a bit more actually on our property maintenance. So for going forward, what we've done in terms of going forward, looking at the budget going forward, is that we've combined the Guildhall and the Carnegie external maintenance into that property maintenance budget. I think that's why it's more this year than it was last year.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. Lovely. Thank you.
Any more questions for the budget, please? No. Okay then.
And just to say, on the projects area is where we had the kind of the biggest underspends and things. That was mostly related to the Guildhall project and St Peter's. And the reason why we didn't get cracking on the Guildhall project, because we hoped to be doing that earlier, was that we actually delayed when we put our application in, because we didn't want to be going up against other applications for Thetford that we knew were going in. So we delayed it another quarter. So then that delayed us actually starting to spend that budget. But that we still need the money that's in the Guildhall, because that is our match funding for the 3-year project going forward. And then St Peter's, we couldn't do the works in St Peter's, the High Tower and all of that, because we couldn't get the road closures. So that we're going to have, that's why we're going for the bigger project, so that we can do the North Roof and the tower in the same bit. Was there any questions on the projects?
Skate park. We spent last year, but nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing on the budget for now.
No, I don't think there's any. We've just transferred all of the money now into the play parks reserve. So
ideal. Have it in one pot. Yeah. Okay.
Any other questions? No. Okay. Thank you for that. So we'll now move on to 887/19, which is the Carnegie roof tenders, which we spoke about at the town council.
As being mentioned, it is a situation that's been ongoing for quite a while now. We have had people in to do temporary repairs, but it's a bit like the little boy in the dike. As soon as you cover up one hole, another one comes in. David, who's with us as well, I think, for this item, David and myself looked at different options for sorting out the roof. We did have one company come in and quote to do the whole of the roof and reseal the whole lot, but that was over 40,000. And we kind of backed away from that because of the costs of some of the other projects. We knew that big capital projects for St Peter's and the Guildhall, and we focused on trying to get 3 quotes for just repairing the roofing above the offices. Why it got put on full council is I was hoping I'd have my 3 quotes, which would have been under 10,000, and it wasn't until we got to the final meeting that we had the one quote that was over 10,000, which was no use at all. So at that full council meeting, councillors suggested we get a full tender to repair the whole of the Carnegie roof, and I think you're looking at costs between 40 and 60,000 for that. And I think if we are going to spend that sort of money, we need a proper, professionally competent individual to assess the work, the roof, and do a full specification. And that, I think, would come in around £2,000 to commission someone to do that work. And if we did do the whole of the roof, then we'd advise we break that specification down into 3 phases, so we can schedule the work over 3 financial years if we required to do that, or we could go do it all in one go, or we could go back just to doing the getting 3 quote, go to tender for to do the area over the offices. So I would welcome councillors' views on what's the best way to progress. A tender for the whole roof or a tender for the small part of the roof?
Got a comment from Stuart Wright and then Jen Hollis.
Thank you.
Stuart.
Who was first?
Well, Stuart says, I thought full council decided to look at 3 quotes for the skylight repairs.
I thought they decided that we should go to tender for the whole of the roof, so I've definitely got a different.
Okay, so yeah,
Well, who was first? Was it Stuart?
Jen, well, Stuart put that question that I put to the council.
Oh,
Can I just come in on that?
yeah.
Yeah, I just thought when the full council had the one quote in front of them, it was decided that we would go back to try and get 3 quotes to give the officers that discretion to go ahead and get those repairs done. I don't think we said go to full tender for the full roof.
Perhaps we need to play that video. That video back. We were all coughing this morning.
I mean, I think.
Pardon?
Councillors' views.
Jenny wanted to come in, didn't she?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. As I always say, I'm not one for patching. I don't like patching. It costs more at the end of the day because you have to go back and do it all again. I was under the impression it was for the whole roof, to get the quotes for the whole roof to be done instead of keep patching up. I may be wrong. I'll look at the notes again.
Stuart will have to come back.
Stuart.
Yeah, I think I did mention in the full council meeting that the Achilles heel on this has always been the area around the skylights. Ever since we had the full roof redone, I think back in 2008-9 time. So I think we've still got a few years left in the full roof bit, but it's the skylights that really do need the attention in the short term.
Right, any other councillors got any
Chris
thoughts?
Harvey's come back.
Okay, Chris.
Then Terry
Roy.
Jeffrey.
Roy and Terry have got their hands up. Roy and then Terry.
Roy Brain, Chris Harvey, Terry.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I must admit, looking at the recommendation that has been put on here now, I would have thought that was probably covers all options, because we're saying that we could break it down over 3 phases, so that would be in 3 schedule years. It would get the job going. I think the first thing we've got to do is to get somebody who can assess the thing first, because we need expertise, and I would go with getting that person in and letting them tell me what they felt was the best course of action, whether there was a little bit of patching up to do, or whether or not year 1 being this year, it would be the skylight bit, and then years 2 and 3 the other bits. I haven't got enough expertise. I would like to go with the recommendation that we get somebody in that knows what they're talking about.
Chair, Chris Harvey says he agrees with Jen. Do the whole roof. Patchwork repairs are not economical. Terry Jeremy then has his hand up, please.
Yeah. Councillor Jeremy.
Thank you, Chair. Ros, I just wanted to check how we've arrived at that figure there of £3,000, because what we're essentially saying is we'll pay £3,000 for them to tell us what the problem is. So how have we arrived at whether that's an accurate amount? And the other point I was going to make was where's the money? What budget is that coming from? So I just flipped back on the budget line from the previous item, and I couldn't see where we hold money specific to the Carnegie. I might have missed it. It's probably in there somewhere. But I'm always keen that when we put a recommendation forward, that we actually say where the money is coming from. But it is amusing that the last time we spoke about this, it was an emergency and had to be done straight away. And now we're spending £3,000 to tell us what's going to happen, and it's all kicked into the long grass. If we agree to do this, and I'm all for having the facts in front of us before we make decisions, but this won't be done for 6 to 9 months. It's not quite an emergency, but just a bit more information about how we've arrived at that recommendation.
It's good to know where the money's coming from. We've got 110,000 in the property reserve, so that's probably where it would have to come from. That figure came that 3,000 figure came because 2 years ago, I got a quote from the Suffolk County Council technical department to do that. And that was also assessing whether we could have solar lights as part of the assessment of the roof so that was a whole package. So that was 2,600 a couple of years ago. So that's where that figure came from. What was the third question, Terry? There was three.
Well, I think it was more a case of, are you content that previously this was a sort of, we were being told that it was an emergency and had to be done quickly? Are you content if we go down this route that this isn't a short process? You know, we're just at this stage doing the assessment. Are you content with that?
Well, personally, I would go to tender, basically, because though Stuart said get 3 quotes, we have to go tender because it's going to be over 10,000 because the quotes I've got are over 10,000. So we'd have to go to tender just to do the bit over the office. That is the quickest. That's the bit that we need to do. You could speak to the officers there who have to move all their computer equipment around and take everything away with them. But if I thought that a full council, people were saying you wanted the whole roof done, and if you're going to spend that amount of money on the whole roof, then you do really need to have a, you know, professionally. So if council, to get the job done quickly, I think it's important, but we still have to go to tender because it's over 10,000. Focus on the bit that we've done. I think we're clear about what needs to be done there. If you want to do the whole roof, then I think you need to have a proper assessment done on the roof. Councillors, you need to decide.
So basically, we need a decision. Do we just do the patchwork? Jenny, you have your hands up.
Yeah, I was just reading the emergency repairs, the current situation part. The Carnegie roof is leaking in 5 places over the 2 upstairs offices. Officers on 2 separate occasions have had contractors in to do temporary repairs. However, the roof is still leaking.
Can't spell abstain.
Are you not on there?
No, I'm on there, but I was taking the mickey.
Oh, sorry.
Now, Dennis, if you're having trouble.
Didn't I just do it?
Dennis was the first one to do it.
Oh, well done, Dennis. You did marvellously. No, the tarpaulin's not in the proposal. We won't be. Yeah. The proposal is to commission a full assessment for the roof and to get a specification written up that breaks it down into 3 phases, so councillors can choose whether they get it done over 3 years or do it in one big go, depending on the assessment.
Right. So how's the voting going?
At the moment, I've got 5 for 4 for the motion. Chris Harvey, Tina Callum, the screen. Tina.
Oh, Chris hasn't voted yet. He's asked a question.
Harvey.
Oh, he's 4 now.
4, yeah.
Chris is 4.
Thank you.
Who hasn't answered?
I think that's all over here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
It's just you missing, Brenda.
Brenda. Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't see Terry. What Terry had answered. So what's it? What's the results then, Chris?
It's carried anyway.
That's
But,
carried.
yeah.
Right. Although that's carried, Ros, a question was asked. If for this this can be done, is there any way that you can put under a temporary measure put the tarpaulin up? I don't know. In the question.
We don't want to do that because they're glass windows, and if anybody was to go on the roof and the glass was obscured, if somebody put their weight on that, but we'll work out some way of more temporary repairs.
Okay.
Is that all right, David? Is David Brooks there? David, can we do something temporary until we get this sorted?
Can't hear you, David. I think he's gone.
Okay, no worries. Carry on.
Okay, so moving on then. So it's 888/19, the countryside report. I do love these reports, don't you? It shows you all around Thetford.
Go for it, Mark. Mark Webster, our countryside officer.
Thank you. Has he gone as well?
He's gone for a coffee.
They've gone for a cup of tea, I think.
Mark's still muted.
Can
Better. Is that better? Right.
Thank you.
I'm having a lot of troubles with lagging on my laptop. Everything is taking quite a few seconds to do, so apologies for that. I wonder if I'm able to share my screen with you at the moment, because I've got an updated version of this, which I have emailed round to people. Hopefully people have had that. But as I said, if I can persuade this thing to actually respond, I'm just going to attempt to share the screen.
I think you'll have to come out, Ros, for the time being.
Okay. Let someone else take control, I think.
Well, Mark needs to press the take control button. I don't know if you'll be able to, Mark.
You know how you came in with that little up arrow? The little square box with an up arrow. You'll have to hit that to come out, and then Mark will come in.
Right,
you'll have to let Rose do it first.
Okay, I'm awaiting further developments.
Rose?
If we can't do it, I can just sort of talk through. But a lot of you will probably have this anyway, which you can perhaps look at. But let me know if it's possible.
Can you send me a copy, Mark, of your new report, please?
Yeah, will do.
Sorry.
I think, Mark, this is basically your report with a couple of sections that because they were over pages, I couldn't put on. So
yeah, this is the old version.
Oh, is it? So you've an updated one?
There is I mean, I can just read out. If you can't give me sort of control, I can just sort of read out from it.
Yeah, go for it, Mark.
Basically, what you'll have to do is, if you need to grab my attention, then just sort of shout, because obviously I won't be able to see what's going on or anything. So yeah, I'll just run through the updates. So if I mention the names of the sites, then hopefully you can keep in touch with which sort of pages of the original report I'm at, and I can just mention the updates for you. So Ford Meadow and Nuns Bridges and Lady Gentle Meadow to start with. The only update really there is that I have been trimming the sort of areas of nettles on the bunds and around the path to keep that avenue open. And the other thing to mention in that area is the Mill Lane poplar tree, which has already come up under health and safety. I've also removed a small rotten laburnum, large shrub, small tree from the other side of the road there. So if we go on to Barnham Cross Common, one thing to mention, we have had a report of one of the young cows, or bullocks actually, chasing someone. We have actually asked for that animal to be removed because it was just a bit lively. I saw it running around, but over the last couple of days, I have seen all the cattle sort of interacting with people. Now they are a little bit in your face. They will come right up to people, children and families, but they have been very placid. So at the moment, I'm sort of keeping an eye on that, but there's no sort of further action unless anybody else has heard any reports on that. That's needed at the moment. They are sort of there, and they will go, and they are curious and will say hello to people, but has anyone heard anything else of sort of any cattle causing problems on the site?
No.
No. Okay. Well, as I said, we'll keep an eye on them, but at the moment they are behaving themselves. Hopefully you have seen there's a map of the sort of botanical hotspots on Barnham Cross Common. It's the one with the sort of little funny coloured squares on that. which I found really interesting and useful. The surveyors from the Flora Group, Brecon Flora Group, have been sort of out over the last years, and that's going to be really useful in enabling us to sort of concentrate our efforts on sort of scrub control, particularly in areas where it's going to make the most difference for the rare species we have there. One thing I do want to draw your attention to is that there's been a patch of gorse and broom has been burnt already. That is near where the anti-glider ditch is, which is sort of, if you know the middle car park, it's on the opposite side of the road to that, basically, on the sort of western side of the site, about halfway down. I've already had Will, our contractor, out to have a look at that, and we're going to get a cost for that. It's looking to be about £1,000 to do that. Now that will be as part of the HLS and countryside stewardship funded works that we do on Barton Cross. We had planned to do, as I think I've already told you, some works over the winter in removing scrub from some areas. And although this is very unsightly and annoying, it is an opportunity for us to do some habitat improvements. So that will be cut right down, chipped up, and the soil scraped, so we're back down to the sand, and to create some bare ground, which is again one of the conditions of our agreements for this SSI site. Just wanted to check basically that everyone is okay to go ahead with that. I don't know if anyone's seen it, that area, but it definitely wants to be dealt with, and my intention is to deal with it sooner rather than later.
No, that's great.
Yeah, if there's no objections to that, we will, as I said, we will crack on with that and deal with it sooner rather than later. It does make the point again that the site is incredibly vulnerable to fire, and for that to be happening in May, I mean, we've had such a horrendously, well, I say horrendous, people have obviously been enjoying the sunshine during the lockdown, but it's been horrendous for the newly planted trees. We are going to lose quite a lot of those, unfortunately, certainly in some of the more exposed spots. And it does mean that the Barton Cross Common is very vulnerable to the slightest spark from anywhere. So yeah, just appeal to everyone to sort of keep alert and see if we can't. If you see anything either burning or burnt, then do report it as soon as possible, and we will try and take action on removing those problem areas. The other thing with regards to Barton Cross I've been looking into is the possibility of getting a permanent water supply on the site.
Mark, can I just interrupt you?
Yes, sir. Sure, go ahead.
I think Terry's got a question
I just wanted to comment on the Barnum Common point, actually, because I've been walking my parents' dog ever since lockdown began, and they live up that way, so I do tend to walk on Barnum Common. And I emailed you, Mark, and I need to respond and just highlight exactly where the issues are. But there have been an awful lot of gatherings, literally daily, groups of between 15 to 20 gathering in the sort of flat part of the common where they're hidden a bit wide sort of trees and bushes. And there have been barbecues, and there have been several occasions where I've found basically human feces on the site, where people are spending all day there, no doubt. So I know it's been reported to the police, but I just think we need to be really proactive as well, because I have found a lot of glass bottles, which I always sort of prioritise picking up just because of the sort of fire risk. But there has been a lot of litter on the common, particularly on the sort of heath part, over the last few weeks linked to those gatherings. So it has been a real issue, because they won't congregate on the flat part of the common, the cut part, because it's so exposed. But the second you sort of walk through the sort of shrubby area, there's multiple groups of people. So I just wanted to flag that, because it's been a real concern of mine in the last few weeks.
Yeah, okay, thanks for that. And please do, generally, all of you, let us know if there are any problem areas like that, and we can try and give them some attention and try and get the litter cleared, and yeah, and police action if necessary, of course. So yeah, thanks for that. Any other comments on the burnt gorse or anything like direct related to that? Okay. as I said, I'll go on to the matter of water supply then. If I can just get the document up again. So this has been sort of rumbling on for a long while, but we've been looking at the possibility of getting permanent water supply just for the sake of the cattle, basically, particularly, and the sheep being able to graze on that area. It's been a situation where the sort of works team have had to sort of fill up the bowser that's there by literally bringing water from outside, and it can be incredibly time consuming in the summer when it's hot and when we have got grazing on there. There isn't on that side right now, but obviously the site does need to be grazed, and it therefore needs, the cattle need to have some water. The options that I looked at, and I know this has been mentioned before about having a borehole put in, from the sort of usual sources of the geological survey, we haven't been able to find records of a borehole existing in that area. And I'm not sure whether, if there has been one, whether we could find it, whether it would be usable. I have had a quote back from a company which does drill wells, and the cost of that would be about 7,500 to 8,000 plus the VAT. And you'd also need a solar pump package on top of that, costing another 2,000 or 3,000. Now this compares to a quote we've previously had from Anglian Water, and Ros will know a bit more about this, for about 3,000 for putting in main supply. So I therefore wondered if we, whether we can at this moment consider the option again of getting that main supply put onto the site, so that we can free up the works team to avoid having them to do that work every day.
Any questions there? And what do you think about Mark's options?
We've got some hands up coming. There's one there.
Terry, Jenny.
As laudable as the suggestion might be, if you think I'm going to spend that much money without seeing a written report in front of me, I'm just not doing it, and it's not fair to keep putting councillors in that position.
Can I come in?
Stuart,
right.
So the football club recently put a borehole in up there, so they will have some up-to-date costs and obviously a contractor that could be used. So I think that might be worth just talking to them about comparative costs.
Thank you, Stuart. Jenny?
I was just going to say that, yeah, I agree that if we haven't got we can't actually see the paperwork on this. We need to maybe bring it back next time and have it as an agenda item.
Oh yeah, I wasn't.
Well done to Mark anyway. He's been working very hard. Well done. Thank you, Mark.
Yeah, I wasn't asked you to make a decision. I just asked if you want to ask questions. Because obviously any documents have to come, any decisions on things like this that have to come back because it's not on the agenda.
Yeah, I wouldn't make a decision on it. It really needs to come back.
Yeah.
It says that Ros thinks that Mark was looking for a steer rather than a decision.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just to say, last year I brought this with the costs for the Anglia Water, and councillors asked me to go and find out whether there was a borehole existing and how much a borehole would cost. So we're just now saying, guys, well, you've now got a rough idea of the cost. Should we go borehole or should we go mains water?
Can anyone remember that report from last year? Because I certainly can't.
I can remember it being on the agenda. I can't remember the whole document.
Well, that's kind of my point. If we're going to have these discussions, and if it relates to a previous conversation, we should be seeing the information, not just things thrown out there that way.
Well, no decision was being asked for. It's whether you've got any questions and the asking you the way forward. At the end of the day, what do you want him to do about the water for the animals? Which way you're gonna? What way are you gonna steer?
Mark? We've got hands up from Dennis Crawford and Jen Hollis in that order.
Right, Dennis.
Yeah, I think we do need a lot more information on it. I think we need to go out and look into both, because if you've got a borehole, you have to get a license and you have to pay extra money depending on how much water you are allowed to pump out and everything. Mains is a little bit easier, I should think, but there'll be an extra cost to that. So rather than go into detailed discussion here, I think we need to get some extra information on both ways of doing it.
Right, Jenny?
Basically, Dennis has said what I was going to say, but yeah, I mean, I'd be inclined if the borehole, if it doesn't exist. I mean, I always grew up thinking there was something there, but obviously if it's not recognisable, then we go for the mains one, because that is a cheaper option as well. But yeah, if all the documents can be put together, and then bring back for the next meeting, then I'd more concentrate on the mains if it's that much cheaper.
I've got hands up from Roy Ibrahim.
Yeah. Roy, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I must admit, I mean, it came in under a report. I'm ever so pleased to see that with all of this going on and the animals being there, that Mark has been on top of the situation. It is something that we're always going to have to look at. If we're going to have grazing animals, we need water. I think he's now come forward with some ideas, which is part of a report for our information. And I would say, please let us go and get the, get a couple of quotes for boreholes, how much boreholes cost to run, how much angling water is, whether or not you've got to pay for removal of water, because that's where your costs are with angling water quite often. But do they do a deal? Yes, we need to water the animals. I think we should thank Mark for his contribution as a giving us a countryside report, and give him the steer that we need to look after our animals. So let's move it forward.
Right, thank you. Could that go on the next agenda of ALP, or is that too quick for you, Mark? You get a full report on all options.
I think we can have, it depends depends exactly what you need, but we can certainly, I would hope, get another quote by then, if any of the companies are still operating. It does look like the borehole costs are, as a setup, are much higher than the angling water costs. So it's I suppose, question for Ros, whether she can get from the existing angling water quote an idea of running costs, and whether that's feasible within the next month.
We can have a look at that. We can. Well, either this week, this month, or next month, then, depending on when we get the information together.
Okay, so we'll I'm sorry, Chair.
No, go on, Mark.
No, I was just going to say then, if we put it on the, or pencil it in for the agenda, but if we're not able to get the information in time, it can go on the month after that. It would be helpful, obviously, I think, if we can get this moving, because obviously, another hot summer, that's going to be sort of problematic for us. So the sooner the better if we can do it.
I've got a hands up from Terry Jeremy.
Terry, you wish to come back?
Yeah, if we're going to receive that report, can I ask for a report that also outlines what our responsibilities are in relation to the grazing, because I'm still not clear. At the end of the day, they're not our animals. We make the land available. And when we had the discussion before, some of us were a bit unclear as to who should be responsible for the cost of the water, and what our responsibilities are versus what the grazier's responsibilities are. So if we're going to have that discussion, we might as well have the report outlining the different options. And I've managed to get up the public advert that went out for the grazing, and it talks about the annual bursary that we pay to the grazier. And it doesn't say anything on there about who's responsible for watering and that sort of thing. So I just think that would be really helpful to have alongside that discussion next time.
Good idea. If you can include that as well, Ross. Thank you. Mark, if nobody else
so
has got
so
any questions
can
on that, you can continue with your.
continue with the rest. Yeah, okay. So the next site, hopefully on your list as well, that I've got up to is Castle Park. I've already mentioned about the tree near the play area, which is considered to be okay now. I have been tidying up some of the fallen branches from we had a beech tree along Castle Lane, lost a big limb. Actually managed to reuse quite a few of those in Thomas Paine Walk and for sort of path lining. That's that little bit of woodland alongside the London Road, and Ramsey Close as well, where it's being used for den making, which is sort of nice to see. On the subject of Castle Park, again, bearing in mind what's just been said, there is a sort of discussion that needs to be had over the cost of fencing for grazing on Castle Park. Again, can I ask when we should when we'll be able to discuss that? The situation is that we were hoping to include at least some of the cost of the fencing for grazing on Castle Park in an HLF bid. Obviously, that's not now possible because the funding is going to COVID-related causes. We do have. We will have a need for a decision on whether to go ahead with the fencing or other options, which, you know, again, are not without their costs in terms of the vegetation control for the ramparts and the mound. Yeah, can I ask basically what's going to be able to happen with the fencing situation?
I think once again that'd have to be an agenda item for the next meeting.
Ross, have you got anything that you can say on that at the moment, or will we be ready for next meeting?
Can we discuss it under the priorities? Because we're just going to have a quick look at the priorities and the impact on them by coronavirus, and then we can maybe pick that up then.
Great. Okay. To resume the report then, or are there any further comments at that point? Okay. Dane Close and Pine Close, there have been a couple of issues with the contractor sort of mowing some of the new little shrubs I put in there, but hopefully that's been dealt with. So that's little tiny improvements that make a sort of bit of a difference to things people see every day. Hopefully people might have seen School Plain. There is the wildflower meadow edge there is starting to come together, and I really am hopeful that's going to look really super over the summer. Richard Easton Road, it's been mentioned earlier with the play areas. First of all, can I ask did people receive the proposed sort of public consultation on the wildflower meadow?
No, I haven't.
I don't remember it.
No, it was I emailed it around a couple of days ago.
Right. No, I'll have another look later, Mark.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, I will sort of resend it if needs be, and I can make sure that Chris has a copy as well, so it gets circulated. But just to summarise, because ID Verde have been sort of unable to get round the sites that you normally expect and do the mowing, it's actually shown up where there are some really nice patches of wildflowers. And Richard Easton Road, some of the areas, not in the play park, but some of the areas around that play park are actually particularly rich in a wide variety. I've seen some vetches, some speedwells, some clary, really good nectar sources. So this brings me back to a proposal that went to this committee right back when I first came here, and it was put on a sort of second wave of areas to consider as wild meadows.
£10 to the Mayor's charity there, Mark.
Sorry?
£10 to the Mayor's charity, phone winner.
Oh, that's not mine. So I'll mention no names, but I'll let him know. Yeah, basically, I will send this around in details, but my proposal is that we keep the area where people like to play football as a sort of closely mown in the current mowing regime once they restart, but leave some of the other patches around some of the other parts of the site with just the sort of first metre nearer the roads and nearer the paths mown, and allow the wildflowers to bloom in that area. And our suggestion is that we send a letter to residents, setting this out, and we offer them a survey monkey questionnaire to sort of put their opinions on those options. So apologies you can't, for one reason or another, see that at the moment. But basically, as I said, we're just going to ask residents in the area how they feel about the idea of some of those areas being sort of cut annually and allowed to bloom as wildflower meadows, rather than being always sort of constantly mown. Are people happy for us to sort of go ahead with that consultation exercise? And obviously you'll be included in that as well.
Yes, please.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree with that. Ask them.
Yeah.
No,
Which area was that, Mark? It's Chris Crimmer, sorry. Which area?
Richard Easton.
Just Easton.
Yeah, Terry Jeremy wants to come in there, please.
Yeah, I think that's a really great suggestion. One of the things I was going to mention to you, Mark, was Castle Lane, and where the fence has been put in now and it's not been cut on the Castle Lane side of the fence. It looks brilliant if you drive along there with the whole variety of colour. And I just wonder if we're doing that for Richard Easton, I wonder if we might be able to do that for Castle Lane residents as well. Obviously they're the ones that have got to look at it, but as somebody that drives past, it looks so much better now than it has done in the past. So I just wanted to throw that in while we're talking about sort of rewilding and stuff.
Yeah, no, that's a really interesting idea. I've had sort of conversations with ID Verdi and county and Brecon contractors about that verge. I did actually ask them to leave that because there's a nice patch of wild clary there, a little blue flower, which is kind of interesting, certainly between the ramparts and the dolphin. Yeah, I'm happy to sort of again send a letter out to those residents asking for their opinions and just checking that it's not offending their site, and just I think it's good to explain that this is being done deliberately for a reason rather than just that they're thinking that we've forgotten it or aren't caring or that sort of thing. So yeah, very happy to do that. Sorry?
They're trying to save money. That's what they always say.
Well, indeed, yeah.
Well, if you get a letter, you can see the reason why. Because I always thought that with the Abbey Meadows, we was never ever told why that they was leaving it. It was always cut every single year, and then a few years not cut it. And no one knew the reason why. We do now, but we didn't at the time. But yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, I'm very happy to go ahead with that as well. And again, it sort of helps communicate these things with people and enables them to sort of appreciate the benefits of it. I think just saying why it's so important for insects at the moment to have that nectar source. Oh right, yes. Now the stones. This comes out of an idea from Tina and others about trying to to help sort of families at this difficult time. So we're trying to get a message out in various ways about that help and support is still there. So we've been I've been sort of painting some stones, some little stones. There are some with animal designs. There are some with the sort of rainbow design, which is seen a lot everywhere. And these are going to be sort of slightly hidden around various of our sites. And as I say, underneath them, there is a little message saying help is available if you need it. And basically what we're going to do is put this out on Facebook saying, come out and enjoy the countryside, have a look for the stones and, tell us if you find them, basically. It's just try and get a way of engaging people in their local green spaces with a nice sort of fun project. But also, as I said, get a message out that, if our families are struggling, there is there is help available. Yeah, it's just sort of request, I suppose, to look out on Facebook, sort of spread the word around that this little challenge for children and families is out there, that they can go out and have fun whilst maintaining the social distance, but sort of enjoy searching for these things. They're not going to be sort of hidden where you have to rummage in the undergrowth or dig underground or anything. They'll all be visible from the paths if you look carefully. So as I say, I don't know anyone wants to comment on that, but we've got, as I said, I'm going to be putting that out probably later today, so that the word is out there and that it's something interesting for people to do. Any comments or?
Well, I did hear this the other day actually from Keystone. They were saying their art group there.
Yes, they get involved as well. They're going to be painting some more stones so that we can get more out there, because obviously the more out there, the better, really. So that'd be really nice if they can do some as well. So super.
And wasn't you going to put some animals in some trees?
Yeah, that's also happening. So Roger is sort of, as soon as he can get hold of some plywood, or we can get some plywood to him, he's going to be cutting them out into animal shapes, and I think we're actually going to get a sort of professional artist to draw those, and those will be up in trees. So all ties in as well with the BFER, the Brex Fen Edge and River Lottery Heritage funded project for a sculpture trail around the town, which again I have been sort of gathering interest from artists in that, which will be a sort of more more spectacular public art, if you like, sort of some really permanent pieces. But yeah, we're also going to be putting some. I think he's got an idea on sort of squirrels and various birds to be put up out of reach, but in trees around the town along the eventual sculpture trail route.
Mike, I've got a question from Roy Brame.
Roy?
Thank you. Yeah, that wouldn't. Can we make it into some form of competition, and obviously put something somewhere that leave the stones there for other people to enjoy. We don't particularly want them taken home, but could we make it into some sort of children's competition to find out where they were and what animals were in the trees and that sort of thing, and put together a competition just to give them something to think about in this time?
Yeah, no, sorry, I didn't give you the whole details there. My intention was that if you find the animal stones and you can take a picture of them, that there will be a sort of small little prize pack of goodies available to the first 6 people who find them. I'm not too worried if people take them home as souvenirs. I mean, it's quite nice if they sort of maybe display. I wondered whether we could ask people to display them on their windowsill. Like a lot of rainbows are at the moment. But yeah, I mean, if you prefer to have a message that please do leave them, we could go with that as my preference, and then more people can see them. So yeah, happy with that. Any other comments on the stones?
Perhaps as a prize, if I can come back.
Yeah.
That might be the way to do it. If you take a photograph, and people will win some of the stones to put in their own home. Then we can make other stones to give away as the prizes to put in their windows and things. It's just to try and get it all going round all the time. And you don't want it to only happen one week, because when they go next week, that isn't there. So try and devise a way of rewarding them for leaving them there to make other people have the opportunity. Let other people have the opportunity.
Yeah.
Right,
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, Jenny wanted to come in there.
Thank you, Mark. That's a very good idea. Do you need any help with painting stones?
Oh, the more the better, definitely. If anyone's got, some stones, or we can deliver you some pebbles, I dare say. But if anyone would like to paint some stones, I'd be very delighted. As I said, we're tying in with the Just One Norfolk phone number and helpline, basically for families that are struggling. So I can give you the sort of little message that we've been sticking on the back of the stones. But any designs that are sort of linked with the lateral world, or as I said, for someone of limited artistic talent like me, the rainbow's a good one. you know, if people would like to paint stones, I'd be delighted. And then, as Roy says, we can get more of them out there, because really, the more the better. That would be absolutely super.
Okay, I'll speak to you later on that one then.
Okay. Any more? No. Moving on then, Mark.
Yeah, okay. So I don't think there's anything else new on the report that you haven't already sort of seen or aren't able to view already. The last thing that I've got there is the facts and figures for the volunteer group and how much they put in. I think it's probably worth emphasising again how an amazing amount of work they've done. You know, 732 hours of work, 100 days worth basically. So that would be equivalent to £5,000 of funding under the National Lottery as a way of measuring these things, or employing a full-time person for about 20 weeks, and that's just in the last half of sort of the October to March. You know, before we had to stop. So they've made a brilliant impact. I mean, particularly on that southwest corner of the Barnham Cross Common, but also on lots of other sites all around the town. They've been really busy and getting stuck into to the tree planting, shrub planting, and you know, vegetation control in all sorts of places. So I'd just like to record my thanks to all the volunteers, and you know, as soon as we possibly can, I'd like to get back with them and carry on, you know, doing those really great works. And it is something, because we're sort of outdoors and we can keep distant from each other. It's something that hopefully we'll be able to start sort of before some other things. Obviously, we await sort of further government guidance on this. It's not possible at the moment because it is a gathering, but you know, hopefully, you know, once we're able to start in again, we'll be able to get people going again, because it did prove a very important part of a lot of people's lives. I think a lot of the participants really enjoyed getting stuck in, and well, I miss it, and I'm sure they do. So yeah, basically just a big thanks to all our volunteers, and you know, I'm sure you echo that. So yeah, well, that concludes the report.
Mark, I've got a hand up from Roy Brame.
Yeah,
Right,
thank you, Mark. I'm so pleased you said that. As well, can we get something onto the websites and the Facebook pages? How much we as councillors appreciate it and are looking forward to it starting again, and hopefully we'll be able to take a lead on some sort of safe distancing outside activities, but mainly it's great that you've mentioned your thanks so that we can get that minuted, but it really needs to be out on the website of how much gratitude we as council have.
Yeah, super. Thanks for that. What I have been doing is I've done a couple of sort of updates for them, for those on email, and posting to those who aren't, of sort of what's been going on, sort of based on the same sort of report you've just been looking at there, just so they're still in touch with the green spaces. So I can certainly include a thanks from members in the next one of those as well.
Thank you.
Yeah. Terry, Jeremy had your hand up.
Yes, please. Thank you. I just wanted to comment, Mark, on that particular section of the report. It's always good to see it quantified, because, you know, we can see the photos, which, you know, are always great, and I've seen you guys out and about, but to have it actually put there in sort of hours, days, and what that means financially, I think is really useful. So I do appreciate you sort of doing that calculation for us and showing us. The other thing I was just going to really sort of suggest, I've emailed you and Ros a few times about rubbish and litter lately, because there's an awful lot more people walking around the town, which is great. Some people are furloughed, some people are, you know, the gym shut or the swimming pool shut, so they're doing a lot of walking. I've been giving out litter pickers, because when I go for my daily walk, I take the litter picker with me, and it's amazing how much you get. In the last 2 weeks, I've actually purchased and given out 20 litter pickers, because people have been asking for them, which is great, but I can't keep buying them forever. So I just wondered if there's an opportunity with, I know you spoke about some money that you've got for equipment before, or if the town council want to add to that, whether the council wants to sort of piggyback that idea and actually make litter pickers available to the public, because people are very passionate about litter in Thetford, and it'd be great if we actually had a sort of council supported effort to try and remove, you know, the amount of litter that's out and about. There's something positive people can be doing without necessarily being in groups. They can, you know, make a big contribution on their own. So I just wanted to throw that out there as a suggestion, really.
Yeah, we do have sort of a couple of sets of litter pickers. I'm sure you're aware that, or hopefully everyone's aware that we do sort of hire out to community groups. Now, obviously, that's not happening at the moment. I hate to be the sort of raise the sort of health and safety and risk assessment things an excuse for not doing something, but there would have to be, I think, a little bit of control over sort of us officially handing out litter pickers to individuals. You know, I wonder whether we'd need to, in some forms of training, just to show that we've made people aware of the potential risk of litter picking, and also there's the question of where they would put the waste at the end of it. We would need to have a sort of an approved way of them sort of dealing with that. While it's informal, and I'm aware that, you know, I'm very thankful for the fact that there's a lot of people out there informally collecting litter. If we sort of gave it our stamp of approval, then there are sort of a few layers of other kind of processes that we would have to go through before we sort of started having an official scheme. That's the only thing. So it doesn't mean we can't do it, but we would just have to sort of think about that a little bit carefully and put some controls in place, I think.
I think what Terry's brought up is a good idea, and I think if all councillors can email in their suggestions on a way that something could be done, that would be great. So would you like to move on, Roy? Because time's, sorry, Mark, time's ticking by.
Well, yeah, as I said, I'm finished with the report as far as I'm concerned. So, you know, if there's no other questions, I'm happy for you to move on if that's
okay. Lovely, thank you. Moving on to 889/19 is ALP objectives. Ros.
Okay, this was really just to put them up in front of councillors in light of the different world that we live in now, and just to ask councillors' views about, you know, how we go forward, and also just to highlight where there potentially is an issue. So Mark has already mentioned Castle Park, the external funding group, the pot that we were going to. They have now moved all of that money over to coronavirus, and the focus is now off of environmental, which was a real shame. Yeah. So we have got 23,000 in one of the budget lines for Castle Park fencing, but that leaves us short of the match funding, as it were, to go with it. Any other comments on the objectives on that page?
No.
Okay, next one. So there's the BFER sculpture trail. Now we're amending that project slightly to take into account of where we're at now. Hence the virtual stones, the stones that people can go get. So the project's morphing to be more individual, more online. The Environment Agency, the fish ladder, I don't think that's particularly impacted. There's a car park improvements at Barnham Cross car park. Whether that's still a priority for us, and then all the works at King Square and Anglia and Bloom. Are there any comments on those?
So what you're saying is, if we didn't do the Barnham Cross car park, we could put that into the fencing for Castle Park?
You could do that. Would boost up that budget to do the fencing.
Because we've done the main car park at Barnham Cross. This is just how many people use that little one? I know people from Suffolk use it, but apart from that,
it's the middle one. it's the middle one that is used quite a bit, really. But it's okay at the moment. I mean, it's not a disaster. We put it in as a priority. It might be something that you want to consider, that we take the money from there and move that into the Castle Park fencing to make up the shortfall.
Any questions, councillors?
There's nothing on the box.
No.
No.
They've all gone for a cup of tea.
Okay. So we've got the Guildhall statue, not the Guildhall statues, the Thomas Paine statue, and then
just a minute, Ros. Chris has just come in and said, no, do not.
Do not. You
do
Chris
not
wants
what?
to keep the car park in there as per normal.
That's fine. I'm just asking for, people's opinions. But that can come up at another meeting anyway, can't it? When we're
So the Heritage Lottery bid, we're still progressing with that. We're focusing much more on the capital parts of that project this year, because events are obviously out of the question. So we're hoping to do get all of the capital works, the heritage displays and stuff done in this first year. And the St. Peter's consultation is going ahead as previously stated. The marketplace will become even more of an important thing to be doing going forward, because we need to think about how we restructure the marketplace to allow for social distancing in public spaces. There's an awful lot of stuff that is now coming out on the government website about how to manage people in your town centres. So that's the marketplace improvements. And then there's the roof, looking at the roof and the living walls. That might be changed into the Carnegie roof repairs. And then the small grants at the very end of it. So they were at the priorities that we set for us. Is there any comments on those, or any thoughts?
Somebody wanting to talk, or is it static?
Nobody asking a question.
So people are happy that we stick to those as basically as the outline.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Right. Where we have our working group working on that. Oh, Roy took a quick hands up.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, I was just a question there. Looking at the thinking of the Carnegie roof and various things. Can't we make a grant to have it made into a water feature?
Yep. Definitely. Waterfall.
Yeah.
Just to say that King Square, the working group, have been working on that. We have been awarded our parish partnership funding, so thanks for all the work done by the councillors to get that money secured for the town. Everything's delayed because of coronavirus, but we're starting to now get going on all of the different things. So just a quick update there. And then in terms of correspondence, we've had on our report people are reporting about social distancing. The play parks, people breaking into the play parks is being reported regularly. We've also been told that we are going to need Commons consent for the car park at Barnham Cross. So this was the power company who are going to use Barnham Cross car park as their compound and would actually tarmac the whole area for us when they're finished. We've got to go for a Commons consent for them to use it temporarily, and we have to use it for the resurfacing as well. I think everything else is just Openreach have officially asked for a license for the Barnham Cross Common easement. So that's from the telecom tower that's going to be on the Charles Burrell site. They need to come through Barnham Cross for that. So they're doing all the consent, but they've asked us for the easement. So I've asked the instructor, I've asked our solicitor and got costs for that. So that's basically the situation where the law says that, look, public land must be used for telecoms and things.
Mm-hmm.
You have a hand up there, Ross? Roy?
Oh.
Thank you, Chair. Going on the fact that the public are reporting social bits and pieces and making sure that you know, it is there. But it was said earlier that you know, people had tried to phone the police and had an hour's wait and this sort of thing. Is there any way that we can link these reports via email to the local police, the whoever is in charge up there, because we know that the actual police station itself is not open, but if they actually got emails coming out of this with times and bits on, they might be able to organise something. I can't think of the lady's name now. That's the chief officer up there. But I just wondered if we could do something so that, you know, the town is making a stand and saying that they don't want to see these people doing it. They can't get to the police. Can we try and do something?
Mm-hmm.
I've got a message. I've got a hands up from Jen Hollis, please.
Jenny?
Thank you. The Harriet Matthews Park. When I went up there, the gates were secure. The only way I could think of them coming in was, I think I emailed you on it, Ros, was through Hill House Lane, because that gate was removed, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So that's the only way they could actually be getting in there, because the others had secure locks on. But there's nothing we can do about that, because the gate between Hill House Lane and the park was removed on the request of the residents, wasn't it, association?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Going back to what Roy was saying, if I report something now, if I report it on the Thetford Town Council report it side, that would automatically go off to Brooklyn or Norfolk County Council. And as Roy was saying, isn't there any way that could actually bring in the police? We don't have to tell the public that, but we could actually have a link so that, you know, if people are barbecuing over Barnum Common on a boiling hot day, whether there's a pandemic or not, it is dangerous, and they could be there.
We'll definitely take that up with Breckland and see whether there is something that we can do to link it. I know that we all regularly we pass it on as soon as we see something.
Yeah. Jenny,
hands up from Terry Jeremy.
Yeah, I think it was Jenny first. Jenny and then Terry.
Can I just say, when you're saying about being on the report and connected with the police,
yeah,
the public should know that, because it might be an easier way for the public to get through to, you know, if they put it on that report, at least they know that the police are actually going to see that.
Yeah.
The town clerk has made a report which says they have reported on the police website and cannot provide a police email for us. Any reports I get, I speak to the police.
Right, okay. But the public should be aware that they should be able to report it via any means, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Terry?
Yeah, thank you. Just a couple of things, Ros, that we've spoken about under correspondence in the past. One of them is the litter bin at Stanleyforth Road. It's a really old-fashioned bin with no lid on the top. It's like just a bowl basically, and it's always full, and the rubbish always blows out. And when we spoke about this under correspondence a few months ago, we were hoping to get it changed in March. I just forwarded you your email correspondence about it. Do we have any bins in stock at the moment? Because it'd be a good opportunity for the guys to order some. If not, I should think. And just also on the same subject, under correspondence, we spoke a lot about the cleaning of street furniture, and there's so many of our bins and litter bins about docu bins and litter bins about that are in such an awful condition. Just wondered if there's an update on whether we're going to able to clean some of them.
And we've got plenty of bins in stock at the moment. The issue is getting the concrete base done for the actual bin, but I will go back to the guys and have a look. Obviously, things in terms of priorities, we're quite thin on the ground with staff at the moment, and we're looking about how we can go forward. I'm wondering, because I think I did ask Mark whether the conservation volunteers could have a look at cleaning some of our signs as well. I mean, really, county should be cleaning their own signs, shouldn't they, in terms of road signs and everything. So we're looking at the signage of town signs.
Yeah, I certainly do know Breckland and County about their ones. I mean, County have been doing quite a good job of cleaning up bus station signs, and Breckland have been doing street name signs. But it's the actual street furniture that really lets it down. The bins and some of the benches, but the bins are covered in sort of green sort of slime. So that's one point. I was just wondering as well, have we got staff shortages because of sickness? Because we haven't actually furloughed anybody, have we? So just curious as to why we're short on staff.
It's more that staff have been deployed in different ways, and because of what we're doing in terms of risk assessments and cleaning regimes, and how many people can share offices and work on jobs in terms of you've got 2 metre distancing. So that impacts us a lot in terms of how we deploy our staff. And we do have some staff who are off sick.
Jenny, Holly, you wanted to come in?
Yeah, thank you. As for the staff, I mean, we've got staff that have got to isolate because of their partners and that, so they're at risk.
I don't think we should be talking about this, guys, really in a public meeting. So
no, not really.
Sorry.
I apologise, but I mean, our staff are doing what they can anyway. I mean, cleaning bins. People should take responsibility for their bins.
Yeah, but I mean, it is important to make sure the bins and the signs and everything do look nice. It is an issue, but at the moment we've got other priorities that we're trying to grapple with.
Well, that's right, and we've got the priorities first. But I know about the signs, but then the county do them from the people that come round, the cleaners that come round. They do them if you ask them.
Yeah, I am surprised because when you're doing street signs, wouldn't it be better to, for free councils to work in partnership so that you all put a little bit in and it gets done? It would make more sense. And the same with street furniture. Some bins are Breckland bins, some bins are our bins. It just makes sense. I don't know if anybody's been following Brandon. And there's these 2 cleaners. I suppose they're normally window cleaners and that. But they've been cleaning all the shop fronts in Brandon's High Street, free of charge to the council, all the roads. I think brilliant, Have we got anybody in Thetford who would like to do it, Yeah. But
Jen Hollis.
No.
Pardon?
No, I'll stop. Put my hand up again.
Okay. Yeah. Anyway, so anybody got anything else under correspondence? No. So the next one is 892/19 community engagement. Apart from what we've already discussed in the main agenda, anything we've got press release, small grant, the BFE sculpture trial, and St Peter's consultation. Anything else?
No.
Just to let you know that 7 of the councillors came back on the Athena Education project in favour of that organisation for a small grant. So I'll add that into the press release as well.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Which one was that, Ross?
That was the education project where they're helping families with children with learning difficulties and special needs.
Oh, right. Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Right. Okay. So, any questions from anybody? No. Thank you all very much for attending.
Thank you.
And the meeting's ending. Oh, go on, Ross.
I was going to say, no, you finished the meeting.
Oh,
Can I ask for Brenda and Ross to stay on just for a minute or two? Brenda and Ross to stay on, please.
okay, so 12:53.
Yeah, well done.
Meeting finished.
Just a reminder that there's the power meeting this afternoon as well.
Oh.
The update, the private and confidential one.
I'm bringing a cup of tea with me.
All right. Okay.
I can't attend that one, Ros, because I've got to go to